Hey peeps, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk about Shokugeki no Soma, or Food Wars Chapter 198, He Who Used All His Strength. So this chapter pretty much concludes the majority of the Joichiro flashback, his plotline, what exactly happened, how it all went down, and this was very satisfying. We had Gin pretty much summing up what was going on in Joichiro's head. We had just the revelation of how Joichiro dropped out of school, who was it that recommended it, and overall it is a very satisfying chapter for filling in all the blanks, closing up all the plot lines. Pretty satisfying. This chapter started off and it was really showing how possibly dire things were, even though it was kind of played for comedy, when people were considering that Joichiro was going to commit suicide. And that is kind of serious. Soma didn't play it up for the seriousness factor. Unfortunately, suicide rates in schools, in college and high school are relatively high compared to other, localized parts of the population. So, school suicides are a good enough topic that they could have touched upon. But just acknowledging that they were prepared for that kind of thing is good enough. Still, seeing Fumio take charge and just go in and get everyone organized to start looking for Joichiro was pretty epic. And then seeing Gin kind of figure out where Joichiro was based on his knowledge of it was just showing the friendship of it. I think Gin got a lot out of this flashback, especially because when we have the segment with the headmaster, he's talking about talents that are far too great. That's clearly where Gin learned his lesson from when he's applying it to Akira. Like, the things that happened to Akira, he probably saw it compared to what happened to Joichiro, and that actually puts a lot more significance in the way he treated Akira. So that was pretty cool to see that kind of line of thought, where it would come out of. And I am very thankful for getting all this, because he's the one who was effectively confirming for us what it was that was getting to Joichiro. Now, this chapter is relatively simple. A lot of pages in the beginning were used to, set up the search for Joichiro, and then a lot of pages were used in Gin's general acknowledgement of what was going on. But then there were the pages that were referring to the metaphor of being in the wasteland. And man, that metaphor is as brutal as ever. When he lost that leg, I'm like, right. Shokugeki no Soma is a cooking manga. It's a cooking manga. Because, man, he breaks his leg and then he just leaves it behind. I do not want to know what kind of mentality reflects that situation. That's pretty drastic. And I feel for Gin, because Gin's ultimately saying that he couldn't keep up with Joichiro. He couldn't follow him into the wasteland and help him out. I do wonder how differently it would have been had there been two of them going on this journey together. Regardless, it's cool that Gin saw all this happen. It's cool that Gin found Joichiro. And it's cool that the headmaster was the one that told him to get out of there. That explains why the relationship is so hunky-dory, even though Joichiro technically dropped out. At this point, we know that Joichiro is probably one of the best chefs of all time. We know that that's a thing now. And we also found out that the blue, I don't think this was said in other chapters, but the blue is open to adults. So a high school student getting in is pretty impressive. I wouldn't be surprised if Soma ends up going to the blue, however, because that would be, because of the thing that's been set up with Joichiro, it would be appropriate if Soma went to the blue, just to kind of, it would be a victory for Soma when it was compared to him fighting his dad. It would be a nice little victory. Anyway, in these chapters, I don't think we've seen Mama Yukihira yet, so I hope the flashback continues just like for the next half of the chapter, just because I want to see if the mom pops up. Although then again, the mom is kind of like tragedy waiting to happen, but I don't know. We'll have to see what goes on there. Anyway, guys, it's a relatively simple chapter. It's just there and it's finishing up the plot line. Other little points of interest. Azami, he's clearly defeated. He's not in the best mood. We do know that Azami kind of idolized Joichiro when he was as the Asura, whereas Gin was saying in this chapter that he wasn't really an Asura. He was just a sensitive kid and it got to him. And that makes sense. Like, the Asura was pretty much him acting out in anger when people were just dismissing his hard work, his talent. And just saying like he didn't earn it. Like you would get pretty angry if someone said that your hard work wasn't worth anything. So, you know, seeing that kind of distinction between Gin and Azami, which Joichiro they actually liked more, I think that's ultimately going to be a pretty important plot point. It might be the plot point that destroys Azami when he has his like maniacal fit, because Azami's an egotistical maniac, so I don't think his logic is going to be coherent when it's coming to the final moments of this arc. I think he's going to have a massive just ego meltdown, and it's going to be hilarious to watch. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for me. I can't really think about anything else for this chapter, but I really liked it. I really liked it because I get it on an emotional level. I get it. And the metaphor of the wasteland, yeah, that's pretty brutal. But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought of the chapter, and until next time, I hope you have a great day.